Hello everyone. In this video series, I'm talking about cell structure and organization. And in my last video, I discussed about the discovery of the cell and cell theory. Now in this video, I'm going to talk about next point, that is classification of the cells. Okay, so we know that any cell can be classified on the basis of its shapes or size or type. Okay, so these are the criteria which is generally used for classification of the cell. And we know that in 1969, when Whittaker proposed five kingdom system of classification, he made five different kingdoms or groups of the living organism, and he classified entire life of the planet Earth in these five groups. Okay, so first kingdom of this system was Monera. The second kingdom was Protista. The third kingdom was kingdom Fungi. Kingdom 4 was Plantae. And last kingdom was Animalia. So R.H. Whittaker proposed this five kingdom system of classification, and he made this five kingdom. Kingdom Monera generally contain unicellular simple prokaryotic organism. Then Protista contain unicellular eukaryotic organism. This kingdom Protista is considered as a connecting link in between simple monerans and complex fungi, plantae, and animalia. Okay, so Protista contain unicellular eukaryotic organism, and fungi, plantae, and animalia contain multicellular complex eukaryotic organism. All these five kingdoms have different type of organism with different shapes. Okay, so when we consider this criteria, that is shape, for classification of any cell, we have to consider this five kingdom system of classification. Okay, so in this video I'm going to talk about different shapes of the cell which is present in the kingdom Monera. Okay, and in my next few videos we're going to discuss shapes of different cells of kingdom Protista, fungi, plantae, and animalia. So if we take first kingdom, that is kingdom Monera, we can say that it is the kingdom of prokaryotic organism. Okay, they do not have well developed nucleus. Their genetic material or DNA is naked, circular, and they generally do not have cell organelles. Okay, cell wall of the prokaryotic organism is made up of peptidoglycan or murin, and they generally contain bacteria. Okay, so all the bacteria generally included in the kingdom Monera. Okay, and this kingdom Monera have four different types of cell shapes. Okay, so first shape is cocci. Then second type of important cell shape which is there in kingdom Monera is Bacilli. Then third is spiral. And the last or fourth type of cell shape is coma. Okay, so I'm going to discuss about cocci, bacilli, spiral, and coma shaped cells which is present in kingdom Monera. Okay, so first is cocci. Okay, so this type of a bacteria have oval, round, spherical cell. Okay, and they generally divide to produce different type of arrangements. Okay, so suppose this is single cell which is round or oval, then it is called as monococcus. Okay, and when this cell divide in single plane, for example this cell divide in this plane, then it produce two round oval shaped cells which are still attached at one point, and now these two cells are called as Diplococcus. Okay, so when any monococcus cell divide in a single plane or one plane, it will going to produce a pair of the cell which is called as Diplococcus. And example is Diplococcus pneumoniae. This is the bacteria which is used by F. Griffith in 1928 in his famous mice experiment. Okay, and by using this bacteria, Griffith discovered the principle of transformation. We know this experiment. Now, when this Diplococcus divide again in single plane, and they will going to produce a chain of the cell, and now this chain is called as Streptococcus. Okay, so suppose this Diplococcus organism divide multiple times, and each time the daughter cell remain attached with one another, then they will going to produce such arrangement or such chain of the cell, and this type of arrangement is called as Streptococcus. Okay, an example of the Streptococcus arrangement is Streptococcus pyogenes. Okay, so this is the type of a bacteria which have Streptococcus arrangement. Both Diplococcus and Streptococcus bacteria are produced when monococcus cell divide in single plane. Now, if any monococcus cell divide in two plane, like first this monococcus cell divide in one plane to produce two daughter cells. Okay, and if these two daughter cells or Diplococcus bacteria again divide in second plane like this, now it will going to produce again two cells which are remain attached with one another, and this type of arrangement is called as tetrad. Okay, and example of tetrad type of cell arrangement is Micrococcus. Micrococcus bacteria have tetrad type of cell arrangement, and in this type of arrangement four cells are present. Okay, four cells remain connected with one another to produce tetrad type of cell arrangement. Okay, now if any micrococcus or monococcus cells divide in three planes, then it will going to produce something like this. Okay, so if a single cell divide in one plane, it will going to produce Diplococcus arrangement, and if this Diplococcus bacteria divide in second plane, it will going to produce tetrad arrangement, and if this tetrad bacteria again divide in one plane or third plane, they will going to produce arrangement like this. Each cell going to produce two different cells. So now here you can see 8 cell structure is produced, and this 8 cell structure is called as sarcina. Okay, so sarcina is 8 cell structure. An example of sarcina type of arrangement is found in the bacterium Clostridium. These Clostridiums are the causative agent, or they are serious pathogens which produce fatal infections like tetanus, then botulinum, okay, gas gangrene. All these type of diseases are called by Clostridium species, which is example of sarcina type of cell shapes. Okay, in this type of arrangement, you can find 8 different cells remain attached with one another, and this sarcina produce due to division of the cell in 3 planes. Okay, so the last type of cell division which occur in monococcus is a random division. In random division, due to multiple random divisions, single monococcus cell produce bunch of the cell like this, and this bunch contain many cells connected with one another like grapes, and this bunch is called as Staphylococcus. This Staphylococcus type of arrangement is found in the bacterium Staphylococcus aureus. S. aureus. Okay. So this is the last type of cell shape produced from cocci or oval or round shaped bacteria. Okay, so we have discussed about the first type of cell shape which come under the kingdom Monera, that is cocci, which contain oval, round type of a cell, and when this cell divide in one plane, it produces Diplococcus or Streptococcus type of arrangement, and when this cell divide in two plane, it will going to produce Tetrad arrangement, and when the same cell divide in three plane, it produce Sarcina type of arrangement, and a random division will going to produce group of a cell which is called as Staphylococcus. We have also seen the example of each type of arrangement. Diplococcus arrangement found in Diplococcus pneumoniae, Streptococcus arrangement found in Streptococcus pyogenes, then Tetrad type of arrangement found in Micrococcus type of bacteria, then Sarcina type of arrangement found in Clostridium species, while Staphylococcus type of arrangement found in Yes aureus. Now, the next is Bacillus or Bacilli. It is nothing but the rod shaped bacteria. Instead of oval spherical shape, this bacilli have rod shaped structures. Okay, so you can find this type of structure under the microscope when we observe bacilli. Okay, if the single bacilli is present like this, okay, single rod is present, it is called as monobacillus. Monobacilli. And example of monobacillus is well-known bacterium E. coli, Escherichia coli, or Salmonella, which are gram-negative organisms. Okay, they contain thin peptidoglycan cell wall, which is cover or outside the cell wall, outer membrane is present. So monobacillus is nothing but the single bacilli. When this monobacillus divide in one plane, it will also going to produce similar structure in which two bacilli remain attached with one another, and this type of structure is called as Diplobacillus. Diplobacillus, and example of Diplobacillus is Klebsiella species. This Klebsiella bacterium show Diplococcus arrangement. If this Diplococcus again divide in single plane or similar fashion, it will going to produce chain of the rod, and now this chain is called as Streptobacillus. Example of Streptobacillus is Streptobacillus species. All type of Streptobacillus species show the chain of rods. Okay. Sometime when we consider bacilli and when we observe this bacilli under microscope, we can found structure like this. Due to the growth, this rod-shaped bacilli produce coccus-like structure. Okay, actually it is a rod, but due to the growth, they become somewhat spherical, and such type of a cell are called as Coccobacillus. Okay, now this Coccobacillus is actually a rod-shaped bacteria, but it becomes somewhat spherical or round in shape. So it is called as Coccobacillus. And well-known example of Coccobacillus is Haemophilus. Example is Haemophilus influenza. This Haemophilus influenzae bacterium is showing Coccobacillus type of structure. And the last type of the bacilli or shape of the bacilli is Palisade. In Palisade type of arrangement, this rod type cell divide, okay, but they remain attached with one another. So this is the rod, and after division, they remain attached with one another like this, and they produce fence-like structure. Fence-like structure. Okay, and example is Corynebacterium diphtheria. Okay, this Corynebacterium diphtheria is a bacteria which show Palisade type of cell shape. Okay, so these four, 1, 2, 3, okay, they come under the monobacillus, diplobacillus, and streptobacillus cell shape. Then cocobacillus is another type of a bacilli, while this palisade is a fence-like bacilli. Example is Corynebacterium diphtheria. So this is about all about first two important shapes of the cell, cocci and bacilli. The next is spiral. Okay, name itself suggests in spiral monerans, the cells are spring-like. They are spiral, and there are two important spiral shapes are present. First is spirulum. In spirulum, thick bacteria are present in thick, rigid spiral conformation. Okay, so this is quite thick and rigid structure, and they are called as spiral. And in case of spirochete, which is another example, in case of spirochete, similar structure is present, but it is thin and flexible. Okay, so well-known example of spirochete is Treponema pallidum. This Treponema pallidum is a spirochete which is responsible for disease syphilis. Okay, syphilis is widely spread infectious disease of reproductive system. It is sexually transmitted disease. Okay, this syphilis is caused by the bacterium Treponema pallidum, which is an example of spirochete type of organism. Okay, and the last is coma shape of the bacterium, and this coma shaped bacteria is curved structure like this, and example of this coma shaped bacterium is Vibrio Cholerae. This Vibrio Cholerae is the bacterium which is responsible for disease cholera, the disease of digestive system, in which the characteristic symptom of the disease is a watery diarrhea, and this diarrhea or cholera is caused by Vibrio cholerae bacterium, which is a comma shape or curved structure. Okay, the next is a spirulum, which we have already discussed. An example of this spirulum type of bacterium is Campylobacter jejuni. This Campylobacter jejuni is having spirulum type of arrangement, which is also responsible for disease of digestive tract or digestive system, which lead to diarrhea. Okay, so we have discussed in this lecture, we have discussed about four important shapes of the cell, which is there in the first kingdom of five kingdom system, that is kingdom Monera. This kingdom Monera have prokaryotic single cell organism, which is nothing but the bacteria, and they are present in four different shapes like cocci, bacilli, spiral, and comma shaped structure. Okay, in case of cocci, a round oval spherical cell is present. It is called as monococcus, and when it divide in single plane, it produces Diplococcus. Example is Diplococcus pneumoniae, and when it divide multiple time in same plane, it will going to produce chain-like arrangement, which is called as Streptococcus. Example is Streptococcus pyogenes. Then, if the cell divide, round cell divide in two plane, it will going to produce four cell arrangement, which is a tetrad. Example is Micrococcus. If the same cell divide in three plane, it will going to produce 8 cell arrangement like this. And example of this 8 cell arrangement is Sarcina, which shown by bacteria Clostridium. Then if the single cell monococcus cell divide in random plane, it will going to produce group of a cell, which is Staphylococcus. Example is S. aureus. Then Bacillus is a rod shaped shell, and if the single cell is present, it is called as monobacillus. Example is Escherichia coli. If it divide in single plane, it is going to produce pair of a cell. It is called as Diplobacillus. Example is Klebsiella. Chain of the same cell, with the multiple division produce Tryptobacillus. Example is Tryptobacillus species. And if the same bacilli become oval or round, it is called as Coccobacillus. Example is Haemophilus influenza. And if the round rod-shaped cell divide and produce fence-like structure, it is called as Palisade. An example is Corynebacterium diphtheria, which is the causative agent of disease, diphtheria. Then second last type of a shape is spiral. If the thick spiral rigid structure is present, it is called as spirulum. Example is Campylobacter jejuni, which is the causative agent of digestive tract infection. And if it is thin and flexible, it is called as spirochete. Example is Treponema pallidum, which is the causative agent of syphilis. And last is coma or curve-shaped cell, which is look like this. And example is Vibrio Cholerae, which is the causative agent of cholera. Now, in my next video, I'm going to talk about cell shape present in the second kingdom, that is kingdom Protista. Thank you.